Good evening, all. Though no one can go back and make a brand new start, anyone can start from now and make a brand new ending by Karl Barth. We all strive to reach what we dream and to fulfill our dreams. Upgrading ourselves is most important. I believe that today's session can make an impact on your personal growth and help you to succeed. This is Medusha, Chairperson of Women in Engineering Student Branch Affinity Group, University of Jaffna, moderator for today's session. It's a great pleasure to have you all in our first session in 2022 on personal development. To help you all to grow more, today we have a keynote speaker, Mr. Samisa Abeysinghe. Mr. Samisa Abeysinghe completed his Bachelor of Science, Computer Science and Engineering degree at University of Moratuva and completed his master degree in Advanced Computing at University of Colombo. He started his career as tech lead in Virtusa. He played several roles in Virtusa, WIEUoJ, CodeGen, and ICTA for around 18 years. He is a technology consultant, people development consultant, career growth mentor, and recently he has started his new journey as COO and Co-Founder at Virtuan Pte Ltd. We wish you the good luck for your new beginnings, sir. With that, let's welcome our speaker, Mr. Samisa Abeysinghe. Sir, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Can I please share my screen?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So today's session is all about personal development. And when we talk about personal development, there are few aspects to it. I think most of the people mistake personal development for career development or career growth. Well, career is only part of ourselves, but the self or the person who we are is much more broader than our career aspect. Personal development is required for career development, but personal development is very, very important for your growth as a whole, rather than just career development. So in today's session, we are speaking about for 1 hour, and I have a few slides. I will go through the slides and try and explain to you my view of how I see personal development. So my career spans for last 21 years. I have been in the industry for 21 years now. So it's a long time. I'm almost near 50 in terms of my age. So throughout my career, I have been a leader in engineering, a leader in delivery. So I have worked with people like you who are graduating from all the universities in Sri Lanka, Ruhuna, Moratuva, Colombo, IIT, Jaffna, Sabaragamuwa, Peradeniya, all sorts of universities. Abilities are, I know what their weaknesses are, and I know how to mentor them and develop them. And I have seen throughout my career how people grow and how people don't grow. So this is the combination of those experiences combined together. This one is a very concise and a precise one. I don't have very much details in here. You might want to make your own notes and later go on and Google search and find out more about some of the topics I talk about. So as an engineering leader or as a delivery leader in technical companies such as WIEUoJ, I mentored people for the long run. And then after I quit WIEUoJ, I went on to CodeGen and did a role specific to people development. I was vice president people development, and I worked on people development alone and did so many sessions and so many trainings. And in general, people talk to me on Facebook, etc., and get career advice. People call me, those who junior people who know me, and get advice and personal growth advices. So personal development, mentoring in itself will help me to inspire you today. So what is personal development? Right? We need to understand what personal development is all about to start with. So personal development is about going from good to great, right? you're already good. That you have to believe, right? You are in this university because you were selected to the university through a very rigorous examination process. You entered the university because you were good, right? You are not an average person. You can be humble. You don't need to have an ego about that, but still you need to understand that you are already good. But good is not enough. You have to be great. You have to be exceptional. You have to exceed expectations, and you have to focus on excellence. In today's market, if you have to become a good person or a good professional, you got to seek excellence. So personal development is about that, right? So when you talk about personal development, the delta matters, right? You are going from one place to another, which is greater. And the difference that you achieve, the delta that you make is very, very important. So what's the delta? Well, delta is the progress from old you to new you. It has to be the matter, or it has to be the fact that your new version of yourself has to be always better than your old self. Now, this doesn't mean that you cannot have down times or depression times, or whether you can have failure. Success is not always possible in life, right? There are failures, there are slow down times, there are difficult times. I have gone through those myself. The new you has to be better doesn't mean that you don't have to fail. Failure is fine, right? And in fact, the more you fail, the more successful you become, because you need to learn how to learn from failures, and you can then go for a better self, right? However, it is very, very important to understand the delta. Have I made a progress from compared to last month to this month? What about last quarter? What about last year? What about? And it could be simple. It could be as simple as I'm going to read something every day for 20 minutes. And in fact, personally, reading has helped me a lot. Even today, I read a lot. When I have a lot of books around me. I pick a book and read random chapters time to time if I don't have time to read the whole book. But that reading inspires, right? And I'm always curious to learn how to become a better self. And when I read something, I learn from that, and it helps me to get better. So it can be done in simple steps. Maybe your personal goal is to become healthier. So you decide that I'm going to walk 30 minutes every day, right? And sometimes you will be amazed that most of the people don't walk 30 minutes every day, especially people who are in Colombo, who are doing jobs, etc. Right? So that's a great achievement. I know for people in Jaffna, if you have a push bicycle, you will be cycling a lot. But most of the people also have motorbikes these days. So if you compute the amount of distance you walk, it could be comparatively less, right? So what I'm trying to say is that you can read and intellectually get better, you can walk and physically get better, and actually there's a connection between physical exercise and mental health if you read about it. So if you make progress, if you want to become a better self, it is all up to you. You need to focus on a delta. So for a good delta, you need to keep growing. So when you grow, the difference between the previous self and the next self becomes evident. So growth is essential if you are to keep growing. So how do you grow? Well, if you are to grow as a person, there are various things that you can do in order to understand whether you are growing. One is to get feedback, right? You can get feedback from your seniors, from your lecturers, from your supervisors, and even from some of your friends and family, right? Well, there will be positive feedback as well as negative feedback if you are getting it from friends and family. So obviously, I think you are smart enough to filter the negative ones and getting feedback. Feedback doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do everything that what others say, but feedback let you know what others are thinking, and probably some of the feedback can inspire you. Then feedback is someone else telling you something about what they think about yourself. Well, mentoring is different. Mentoring, on the other hand, is about the person gives you specific instructions on how to become better, right? So in a situation like a university, right, probably your project supervisor, finally a project supervisor could be a good mentor, or your lecturer teaching a subject that you love could be a good mentor, or somebody who is senior enough in an organization with the experiences that in the fields that you are looking for could be a good mentor. Right, for example, I'm a mentor for this 1 hour for you guys and girls today, right? So look for a mentor. It's very, very important, right? And the mentor has to be somebody whom you are comfortable with, right? And the third one is about yourself, something that you can do on your personal on your personal self. That is, go out of your comfort zone. So what's comfort zone? Well, people are comfortable doing some other things, right? For example, um, people are comfortable keep doing what they do, right? They don't want to stand up and ask a question because it makes you uncomfortable. Sometimes you might not want to get in front of an audience and do a presentation because it makes you uncomfortable. Sometimes you might not want to take the risk and go for a new job because you are not comfortable. Sometimes maybe somebody gave you negative feedback and they told you not to do that, and because of that you don't want to take the risk and do that because you are comfortable not doing it. So breaking your comfort zone and doing something new will open up opportunities and help you grow. So always check whether, am I doing this because I'm comfortable, or am I not doing this because I'm comfortable, or what if I break my comfort zone and go and do something risky? Will it give me growth opportunities, right? If you take a new opportunity, even though it is risky, and take a chance with it, your growth becomes more possible. And the next thing that I want to talk about when it comes to growth is that growth is not about other people or the environment. It is mostly inside you, and inside your mind. Actually, growth is a mindset rather than anything else. It's about, when you say mindset, what do you understand? Well, when you say mindset, it means that how do you perceive the world? How do you think about the world, right? And how do you act or react when things happen around you? So growth right? Those two words, growth mindset, and do a Google search. Make a note about growth mindset phrase and do a Google search after this session and go and figure out what it all means. Like I said, there's a book about it as well. So let me talk a little bit about this growth mindset aspect. So growth mindset is the good mindset that you can have. If you have the growth mindset, you will believe that most basic abilities can be developed, that your brain is open to learning, that you can uplift your talents, and this this view or this mindset basically makes you believe or allow learning, and learning is a critical pillar when it comes to growth. Like I said, I read a lot because it gives me a lot of learning, right? And if I watch, sometimes I don't watch TV news. I hardly watch any teledramas. I watch movies. Even some Tamil and Hindi films are good. Not all of them. Even Western movies, some of them are good. Not all of them. But you can learn from them, right? But learning is essential. It gives you a lot of growth opportunity. So you're allowed to learn. Your belief that you can develop your talents and skills is the growth mindset. So the opposite of growth mindset is the fixed mindset. With fixed mindset, what happens is that those people with fixed mindset believe that their basic qualities, like intelligent or talent, cannot be grown. They're fixed. You came up with something when you were born, and that's it. That's not the case. And sometimes they document what they have in terms of intelligence or talent and do not look to develop themselves, right? And the fixed mindset people also believe that talent alone creates success, not the effort. Actually, success is a lot about effort rather than talent, right? And the simplest example is that look at your school age. Maybe they have a but those people who are talented but also made the effort made it to the university. So it doesn't mean that the talented people don't make it to the university. What it means is that you got to be talented, and maybe you are, but at the same time, unless otherwise you put an effort, right, you're not going to grow. So go and see whether you are a fixed mindset person or a growth mindset person. And if you are a fixed mindset person, the good news is that you can become, or you can convert yourself from a fixed mindset person to a growth mindset person. And if you are a growth mindset person, you have huge potential, opportunity, and ability to grow yourself. So here's a simple example mechanism using which you can measure whether you are a fixed mindset person or a growth mindset person. So sometimes, let me take some of them, right? You can go through this slide on your own. I will share the slides with you. So let's say effort. How do you view effort? Fixed mindset people always look at effort as a negative people, right? Oh my gosh, I have to do this. Oh my gosh, you have to do that. That's a lot of effort, etc. But growth mindset people always look at the effort positive. If I do this, I can get there. So because of that, I'm going to put my effort in there, right? And how do you respond to setbacks? Right? If you fail, what do you do? Some people, when you fail, right, you look helpless. Oh my gosh, I failed. I don't know what to do, right? I'm always like this. I don't want to do that because I'm going to fail. Last time also I failed, etc. But growth mindset people become resilient. Yes, I failed. Let me look at my learnings. Why did I fail? Let me try again. I'm going to go get this thing done, right? And then if somebody criticizes you, what do you do? Some people are very, very defensive, right? They will say why they couldn't do it, why it is so, what happened with your parents, what happened to your friends, this thing, that thing, blah, 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 etc. And you come up with a lot of defensive answers. But on the other hand, if somebody else criticizes you, but you are a growth mindset person, you look at the criticism as, let me look at this criticism and learn what I can learn from it. Let me have a look, right? So you look at the criticism from a learning oriented perspective, right? And how do you see other success? Fixed mindset people see when somebody is successful, oh my gosh, that person is successful. It's a threat, right? I'm going to lose my place. They're developing kind of scenario. Versus fixed mindset people look at this and take it as a lesson and look at inspiration. So I can keep going and explaining the picture, but the picture is very self-explanatory. Fixed mindset people are defensive, reactive, look at it as a threat, versus growth mindset people look at it positively, learning oriented, look at opportunities, etc. Right? So if you are a fixed mindset person, know that you can always become a growth mindset person. If you are looking at things negatively, gradually learn how to look at things positively. If you are taking things from a defensive perspective, gradually learn how to be learning oriented from that situation. If you feel something is a threat, learn how to look at the opportunities in there, and you become a growth mindset person. And why should you become a growth mindset person? Well, when you are a growth mindset person, it helps you to grow faster in your life. Now, the growth journey is not a straightforward journey. When you start clueless. Then you go 1 year, 2 year, then you start becoming comfortable, right? And then after some time comes the final year, you all of a sudden realize, oh my gosh, I have to get serious. I doesn't seem to know too many things, right? And then once you understand that, you can keep learning, and you master something, right? This might have happened to you in your O levels. This might have happened to you in your A levels, etc. Sometimes once you pass A levels with high colors, you think that you know everything. But when you come to the campus, you get to know that you don't know anything, right? Looking at the subjects taught in the campus. But after time you get comfortable, but then gradually you start realizing that you have to work harder. And once you pass through your university and go to masters, you think that you know, but when you start masters or MBA, you start to realize that, okay, I don't know too much, etc. So the reality of this situation is that, yes, you might know few things, but there's always more to learn in this world, in any discipline, in any organization, in any subject matter. That's how it goes, right? So always know that there's more to know, there's more to learn. And sometimes you have to be passionate about what you want to learn, right? And another good technique is to question everything, right? The biggest problem is that you assume that, oh, maybe that is what they say, and you don't question anymore. Questioning is very, very important. And always look for the next challenge. Maybe you are done with the current challenge. Maybe you succeeded, so you are happy and comfortable. But what would be your next challenge? So if you follow these aspects, if you are passionate, if you question everything, if you look for the next challenge always, you will not get stuck in a local optima and get fooled that you know something. You will keep learning, and if you keep learning, you will keep growing. So that's about growth. That's the first section of my speech. Next, I want to talk a little bit about skills, and especially the soft skills. Maybe you already know, maybe the university already told you that soft skills are very, very important, right? Now, actually, without soft skills, you are not going to be successful in your career. In fact, now the technical skills are very, very important, but at the same time, when it comes to career progression, 85% of the time, it is your soft skills that matter. In other words, soft skills are much, much more important than technical skills when it comes to growth, when it comes to career growth, when it comes to professional growth, right? So what are some of the soft skills? You may already know. Here are some examples: leadership, communication, people skills, teamwork, learning skills, creativity, problem solving skills are some of the examples. Now, when you are in life, right, when you go through life, you always hit with various problems. Some are serious problems, some are simple problems. Some are personal problems, some are social problems, and some others are professional or career problems, right? And you as a person needs to have a good skill to solve the problems. And as people, we are social subjects. We need to be able to work with other people. So the teamwork is very, very important. And in teamwork, right, when it comes to teamwork or when it comes to being able to successful, you need to be able to communicate with people, right? So you might look at this slide and say, oh gosh, I know these skills and I have them. Or I know these skills I may not have. Now, one of the key advices that I would like to give you is that every one of these skills have depth on its own. If I ask you what is leadership, will you be able to explain to me inside out now? What is communication? What is creativity? Maybe you have some understanding, but you may not have the kind of understanding that I'm talking about. So unfortunately, in this session, I don't have time to explain all these skills one by one in detail, but let me take the topic of leadership and let me explain to you what I think of leadership and compare that to the kind of knowledge that you have about leadership and see the difference. And trying to explain that to you, what I want to tell you is that, or what I want you to understand is that these skills have much broader meaning than the surface meaning that you have or that you think that they have. So when I talk about leadership, when I talk about soft skills, I want you to understand these soft skills to the level that I'm going to talk about leadership to that level. So once you understand that, you can go and do your own research and understand communication, learning, creativity, and other skills that I have listed on this slide. So what is leadership? Well, leadership is your ability to inspire for greater good. In other words, good leaders inspire other people to achieve greater good, right? If your actions can inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are a leader, right? And actually, John Adams have said about leadership in this manner. So do you agree? And would you like to understand further? And if you are to practice leadership, you have to have understanding about leadership to this level. So let me elaborate a little more. So who is a leader? What is leadership? Well, there are some characteristics when you talk about a leader. You can try and gauge out of these skill sets how many are there with you. And if you have few, you have a long way to go. If you have many, you can be happy, but please keep optimizing those, right? Now, for example, do you go above and beyond? Are you confident? Are you optimistic? Remember, pessimistic people or negative people cannot be leaders. Are you open to change? Are you a person who will live up to changes? Do you decide? Or are you a maybe person? Are you accountable? Are you unflappable? You don't shake? Or do you shake? Are you humble? If you are a leader, you're going to be humble. People with ego cannot be a leader. Are you passionate? Look, if you want to do something, and if you go and talk to your leader, if the leader says, I don't know whether it will work, maybe yes, maybe no, you are not passionate about it. And you cannot follow an passionate leader and get the job done. So if you want your people to get the job done, you have to be a passionate person. Are you motivated within? Now, the problem with leaders is that there's nobody to motivate, right? Now, if you are fallen down, right, what do? You go to a leadership person and say, I don't know what to do. Give me some help, right? But can that be done by the leader? Right? Who is the leader going to go and talk to? Right? So usually the leader needs to be motivated within by himself or herself. And if you are a leader, you don't focus on titles, right? Even if you don't have a title, even if you are not the CEO, even if you are not the COO, you can do some leadership role. Remember that. And leaders focus on people. If you can't work with people, you cannot never become a leader. And leaders are willing to learn. Right? Now, if you look at the job market, there are so many people who do QA, BA, DevOps, software engineering, UI design, etc. But if you take a company, those are not the ones who are paid the most in a company. The most paid person in the company is the CEO. Then comes the other chief officers. Then comes the VPs. Then comes the director. So these leadership people are paid more than these other people. Why is that? Because leadership is very, very valuable. And leadership is difficult to find in this industry. I'm telling you, right? I want to hire 10 people today, but when I interview people, it is very hard to find people with leadership, right? So if you have leadership, right, not only you become a personally good person, you also become a person with high market value. You can very easily get a job if you have. So my question is that, have you ever thought about leaders from this dimension? Did you have this broad understanding about leadership? Right? I have more. When you talk about leadership, it is also a mindset. This is similar to growth mindset versus fixed mindset. If you want to become a prosperous person with a good data, and if you want to grow in your personal life and career life and social life, you have to have growth mindset and not a fixed mindset. So likewise, if you want to become a great leader, you should have a leadership mindset and not a fellowship mindset. What does fellowship people do? They are reactive. They respond with excuses when a problem happens. Rather, leadership people are proactive. They prevent the problems from happening. Fellowship people are pessimistic. They blame on everything. They say this happened because of this, that happened because of that, etc., etc. Whereas leadership people are optimistic. They always look at the bright side of things. You cannot be negative if you are a leader. And fellowship people always look for a to-do list. Now, if you hit with a problem, what do? You go to a friend or a supervisor or to family and ask, I'm hit with this problem, what should I do? Now, if you go and ask a person, what should I do? You are a fellowship person. You are asking for a to-do list from the other person. You are not a thinker. You are not a leader. If you are a leader, what you do? If you are a leader, if you are hit with a problem, you think about the problem and list out, what can I do about it? I can do A, I can do B, I can do C. Let me pick one of those by prioritizing and analyzing, and let's do it. And you see possibilities, right? And once you see possibilities, you are a leader. Now remember, in an organization, if the leader cannot give you the options or possibilities, that person is lost as well as you. So there's no leadership in there, right? So I gave you a basic framework for you to analyze the leadership aspect. So basically what I'm saying is that in essence, the single soft skill of leadership can be viewed broadly, like I explained to you in this deck. Likewise, you need to be able to drill down these other soft skills and understand them in depth. And those skills do matter a lot, and those skills do matter a lot for your development and growth. So please do your topics and you can learn on your own in terms of what you need to do and what needs to happen in these spaces, right? In the interest of time, I only explained leadership. Obviously, if I had more time, I can explain other ones. Unfortunately, this time, excuse me. This time slot is not sufficient to explain to you everything. But if you have questions, you can always ask me on social media channels, etc. And I will be able to help. Now, the next topic is that I said growth is not only about career progression, but career progression is a big chunk or a critical path or critical pillar of growth. So let's look at career progression. Well, first and foremost, you need to understand career progression is not a short one. Now, I am talking to you today sitting on my couch with 21 years of experience. That's a long time, right? It will take you at least 4 to 5 years to become a good tech lead. It will take you another 5 to 6 years to become a good architect. So you are talking about 10 years for you to become a good architect in the industry. And then after becoming an architect, you probably become a director, then become a chief officer, etc. Right? So I have played all those roles in my career. So I'm talking to you with a very different range of experiences. It's a long-term game. It's not a short-term game. And in career, people want big salaries, quick progression, this and that. That's all bullshit, right? It doesn't happen like that. I'm telling you with my experience, and it is not going to change for the next 50, 60 years. Even though AI comes, etc., it will be the same. So your skill set matters, your patience matters, your journey through your career matters, etc. So you need to understand what to do with your career progression. Well, sometimes the starting point is that you want to choose where you want to be. There are so many opportunities. I have listed only a few here, right? For example, if you're on the technical track, you can become a software engineer, you can become a quality engineer, and you can become a DevOps, SecOps engineer. So those are only 3 of them. Then there's business analyst, security specialist, project manager, right? There are various roles that you can play, various role tracks that you can play in the industry. The thing is that you personally need to decide where am I good at. And sometimes people think quality assurance is second fiddle or a secondary job compared to software engineering. Well, I am going to tell you that without quality assurance, you are not going to be successful with project delivery. And the question here is that if you are in that particular track, what is your progression? What am I going to become in 10 years' time? And what I'm going to become in 20 years' time? If you have an answer for that, then you can confidently take that over. Sometimes you might take something over and figure out in a few years' time that this is not going to work for me. That's all okay. Then you need to change the track, right? But there will be a hit. If you work for a particular career track, let's say you start as a quality engineer, you work for 3 years, and then you decide this is not going to work. I probably need to go into project management. So after 3 years, when you go to project management, there is a slowdown because now you have to get used to the project management, etc. And you don't have the same experience level as the other people. This is okay because it is your personal experience, but you need to be able to make that decision by making conscious choices, and you have to make sure that you are making informed decisions. Now, in order to make informed decisions, what you need to do is that you don't get up in the tomorrow morning, prepare a CV, apply for a job, and go to the job day after tomorrow. That is not what should happen. That is what happens with most of the people, but that's not good career progression or career planning. You need to have a plan, right? In the next month, go ahead and figure out what you want to be. You are still in the university. Go do research all these tracks. And map your skill set, map your preferences, map your passion, and see where you want to be. Take another 3 months and study the pace, study the space, right? Then come up with a plan. Once you have a plan, you have to break the plan. What am I going to do in next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and next 3 years, etc. And the reality is that sometimes it is very difficult to make a 3-year plan because the world keeps changing very rapidly. But that's okay. The important thing is planning, not the plan. You can always change your plan because it's your personal plan. But what is important is that, do you sit down and think about it? Do you sit down and learn about the space? Do you know what to do? Do you know what the progression opportunities are? Do you know what the skill set required by this career tracks? Do you know what people are looking for? Do you know what the interview questions are? Right? Do you know the tools that they use? Have you spent time to learn some of the tools? Have you done some projects with that skill set so that when you go to the job interview, you can confidently say, I have done this and this and this. I already can do that. Give me an opportunity, etc. And once you go to the job, the same thing happens. People go to the job and start relaxing. You can't start relaxing after going to the job. You have to do the job. You have to keep learning. You have to prepare for the next promotion. Why is promotion important? Well, first and foremost, it is important because it is about personal growth. Second, it is important because you are going to grow your business value. With that promotion, ideally, you should get a salary increment, right? And if you work for 5 years in the industry, right, you need to have a plan in terms of where you want to go. Now, in the planning process, if you don't know what exactly to do, if you don't know what questions to ask, if you don't know what to look for, if you're uncertain what you should be doing, this is where you should pick up a mentor and talk to that mentor. Remember, I spoke about mentoring a few minutes back, and you should ideally find somebody with experience similar to me, because I can tell you about all the tracks, etc., etc. Obviously, I have limited time, but if somebody ping me and ask, I always respond. Like, for example, I came to this session even though I have tons of other work, right? So I am willing to invest some time, obviously, and I can help people, but not only me, but you can find people from the industry, and you should be able to ask somebody with greater experience, because don't go and ask from batchmates. This is not a disrespect to your batchmates, but they don't know. They haven't gone to the industry. They haven't worked with the industry. They haven't worked with customers. They only know the same amount that you know. So don't talk to peers and get the job done, because they cannot mentor. Get somebody with much more broader experience. And sometimes if you talk to one person, they will give you one perspective. Talk to a couple of people. Talk to at least 3 people. Then get an idea. Then make your plan. And that's better. So when you are in a particular career track, there's a progression path. Now, let me take as, for example, right, the software engineering field. You might start as an associate software engineer, then you become a software engineer, then you become a senior software engineer, then you become a tech lead, then you become an architect, then you become a senior architect, then you become a director, then you become a VP, then you become a CTO, etc. And it keeps going, right? So when you start, at least you need to have good understanding in terms of what is meant by ASC, SC, and SSC. Right. One of the key mistakes that people do is that you get promoted from being a software engineer to a senior known. There's something, an article in Chicken Soup, a site called Chicken Soup, saying on being a senior engineer. That's, if you Google that phrase, on being a senior engineer, you will get an article, very lengthy article, where you can understand how to become senior. Go and see whether you have all those characteristics. And remember, even if you're not into engineering, if you want to do QA, if you want to do BA, if you want to do PM, or if you want to do DevOps, SecOps, the same concept applies. So I highly suggest that everybody in this session go and read that article. Right? It's called, when you Google, it should be the first hit, on being a senior engineer. So focus on your delta. Remember, I told you about delta. Delta is the difference between you today versus you tomorrow. Good you versus better you. Better you versus exceptional you. Exceptional you versus excellent you, etc. So every month, check your delta. Every 3 months, summarize your delta. If you are not making progress, you are stuck in a place. If you are stuck in a place and if you don't know how to move, you need to talk to somebody and seek some advice and mentoring and get some feedback and learn how to do that. It's okay to sometimes mess around. It is okay to sometimes get stuck. It is all okay. Life is not a smooth ride all the time, right? Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying you need to keep growing. Sometimes failures are inevitable, and there could be sometimes drastical failures, but that's okay. All what you need to do is that if you're not making a delta, if you're not making a learning, go talk to somebody who can help you and make a plan so that keep going. So once you have a plan, you need to review the plan. So there's a simple model to evaluate the delta. Where am I today? Where am I headed? Where am I going? And what progress did I make compared to the past, compared to where am I today? So it's a simple model, right? If you evaluate this model and if you execute this model, you will realize how much progress you can make. And I would like to highlight to you that there's no shortcut to success. Unfortunately, in this Facebook or social media world, there are so many posts saying that you can earn 100,000 in a month, you can earn 300,000 or 500,000 with freelancing, etc., etc. Right? Well, the question is that I have my WSO2 experience. I worked for 14 years at WSO2. I ranked it, I worked really hard. Sometimes I worked 16 hours a day. And then I resigned finally after 14 years. And even today I have stocks from WSO2. And when WSO2 got some investment recently, I got a sizable amount of stocks that I could sell and earn some money. And that's all because of hard work I put all those years. Obviously, I got a salary, but at the same time, I enjoyed the benefit of selling my stocks, and I still have some stocks left. So if this company becomes more successful, I can also become successful, right? So that's hard work paying off, right? So even though I'm not employed, I still get benefits out of that, right? So when you look at life, obviously the money matters, but at the same time, in order to make a lot of money, there are no shortcuts unless otherwise you are going in the wrong path, such as dealing drugs and all these other illegal stuff, right? If you want to legally earn money, hard work is the only way, right? I mean, don't take my word. Maybe you all know better than me, Elon Musk. Go and see what he says about hard work. He says a person needs to work 80 hours a week in order to be successful. Now, what does 80 hours hours of work mean? Well, if you work 8 hours a day, which is the standard, and if you work for 5 working days, it is 18 to 5, 40 hours a week. That's the standard, business standard. But if you want to be as successful as Elon Musk, he himself says that you have to work 80 hours, right? And obviously you have to question, why should I work so much, right? Well, I'm telling you, when you are young, you can work that much. But when you are older, you can't work that much, but you can do the same amount of work because of your experience. So when you are young, put the effort and build your experience. And as your life keeps going, the work becomes effortless. For example, right, this slide deck, right? I'm doing today effortless. Only this hour matters because I have to sit and talk through the slides. But all the facts that I'm telling you is through my experience. I have done my research. I have learned this all the hard way. And today I'm delivering it effortless, right? I spoke about leadership, right? I gave you a very in-depth understanding about leadership. That doesn't come simple, right? That requires a lot of hard work. I have read again and again and over again about leadership. And that is how I know. I practice over and over again about leadership, and that is how I know. So that is how hard work plays. You are benefiting because I put all that into my hard work. And I read a lot and research a lot. So that article that I spoke to you about on being a senior engineer, which is a very valuable article that every person who is going to work in the technical industry, no matter what your role is, must read. I am telling you by my heart, right? But I do that because I learned it the hard way, right? So likewise, I have shared my knowledge with you. You can start with that knowledge, but when you go to the industry, put your hard work into practice. And I'm telling you that hard work will help you reach success and will pay off one day. So here's a picture about some of the people skills you need, right? Again, an elaboration of people skills that I spoke about. Again, I'm telling you with my research, I've come up with all these boxes in terms of people skills, in terms of the skills that you should develop. Again, I don't have time to go one by one. It's all there. You can do your own research and figure out the value of people skills and what are the areas of skills that you need to develop in order to become a good people skills person. Remember, people skills are number one today. The salesperson needs to talk to people. The BA person needs to talk to people. The architect needs to talk to people. The tech lead needs to talk to architect and engineers. The engineer needs to move along all these roles that I mentioned and get the job done. The QA needs to move along with all these people and get the job done. So you are working in a team with different experiences, different expectations, and you need to learn how to deal with all these people. When you are in university, it's very easy life. You are dealing with lecturers and same like-minded people more or less at your age. That's a very easy life. When you get into the industry, you're going to meet people like me, which is 20 years experience. You are going to be not cases, you are going to meet good cases, you are going to meet good customers, you are going to meet bad customers, you are going to meet tough cases, soft cases, crazy people, all those are there, right? So ability to deal with people is very, very, very important. And this is the breadth of the skill. So developing your people skills is very, very important. I have listed some of the things that you can do. Again, I will not go into details, but this is a critical skill that you can do. So like I drilled into leadership, I have drilled into people skills box, and I explained to you what you need to do in order to develop the skill. Now, finally, I would like you to pay attention to this aspect, right? Being able to understand the world around you is very, very important. That will make you a better professional after all. Many people don't understand the world around them, right? One of the key advices that I got in my early stage of the career is that when I was a tech lead, I got the opportunity to attend the architect workshop many years ago when I was working at Virtuan. I got this opportunity, and there was a consultant from India who came and did this architect workshop. And at the end of the workshop, the person doing the session said to everybody in the room, "You should watch a lot of movies." That's what he said. If you are a good architect, you should watch a lot of movies. So somebody in the room asked, "Why? What is there? What is the connection between watching movies and being an architect?" Well, most of the movies which are popular, all the people go and watch. And when you watch movies, you can understand how the world thinks, right? And that was a great advice. And I have watched so many movies, and I can apply all those into computer design, ergonomics, and all those aspects that are around us, right? So it's about knowing the world around you. and it's about understanding what others think. And if you are an architect, it will help you better understand what's going on. And common sense is very, very lacking in this society. But if you are to become a good designer, right, you need to have a lot of common sense. Now, this advice was given to me by one of the architects, a building architects, and this amazes me that this applies to software architecture as well. I work with so many technical people day in and day out, and I have done this for the last 20 years with junior people, mid-experienced people, senior people, right? If the system fails, that is because the engineer or the QA or the DevOps person didn't have common sense, right? So when you look at something, don't just think about technology. When you look at something, don't just think about how to write code for that, but think about it from some common sense. Try to understand the world around you and have some common sense. And that will make you a great designer. And design skill is really, really needed in the software industry. It is not only the architects today that do the design. Everybody, even junior software engineers, have to do the design. If you're writing code, you are writing a design into code. Remember that. And you have to have common sense in that particular aspect. So that's all I have today for you. Do you have any questions? I think it is right on time.
Yeah, thank you, sir. That was an indeed and an interesting, valuable experience for all of us. I believe that your thoughts would have enlightened the inner person of all of us, and all of us would have realized our mindset, and yeah, we are on our growth curve. So we do have some questions which we collected already. And guys, if you have any question, you can unmute yourself and ask, and you can put it on the chat box too. And we will soon share with you the PPT, and you can get the recordings on IEEE student branch channel. So the question is, if any person think wrong, how to solve this problem?
So think wrong stems from probably being negative, misunderstanding the situation, right? And not having transparency or visibility. So in my experience, if somebody is misunderstanding or thinking wrong, right, I first of all go and explain why. Right, being able to explain why is very, very important. Why does it matter? Why did I say something like that? Why did I do something like that, etc. So if you explain the why, it brings in the transparency. And then if the person is negative, we can't fix other people, but we can be positive rather than going to the negative side. Right.
Yeah, sure.
And so the next one is, how do you keep your feelings separate from decision making? Well, there's something called emotional intelligence. Go and read about emotional intelligence. So feelings is one thing, but being professional all the time is another thing. So in order to make sure that you are not getting lost in feelings, you got to build your emotional intelligence. So again, I don't have enough time to explain emotional intelligence, but note down that word and go and Google search. Google will teach you a lot about emotional intelligence. So if you are to keep your feelings separate from decision making, you would have a lot of emotional intelligence. Right. Then there's another question. What are the personal developments and important skills that are needed to focus as a young entrepreneur? Well, entrepreneurship requires you to understand customers, right? Understand the problem, come up with a solution, and the solution has to be a lot empathetic. So one thing that you need to have is you need to solve a problem in an empathetic manner. So go and look for empathy, how to develop empathy. That's very, very important for you as an entrepreneur. And the other most biggest thing you as an entrepreneur is that you need to understand understand the business skills, right? I would separate out soft skills from business skills. You can talk a lot, right? But you can't make a sale. So there's a difference between being able to communicate versus making a sale. Sales is a skill. You can talk a lot, but you can't market something. Being able to market something is important. For example, you can have a lot of communication skills, but can you give an elevator pitch, right? Is key. So likewise, you as an entrepreneur, you need to know how to frame your solution to what problem you have. That's important. You have to have a lot of empathy towards the customers. You have to focus on customer success. You have to have sales skills. You have to have marketing skills. That's what I would say in relation to that question. All right.
Yes, sir. We have another question, like how does an interviewer evaluate our leadership mind during the interview?
Well, there are various ways that if I'm doing an interview, there are multiple ways that I can evaluate whether you are a leader, right? First and foremost, I can have an open-ended question saying that given a situation, how you would act. So let's say there's a particular situation. How would you act in this particular situation? So if you're answering as a fellowship mindset person, you are not a leader. If you're answering as a leadership mindset person, you are a leader. So whether you are a fellow looking for a to-do or looking for possibilities, and you are a proactive person, I can gauge from that. That's one thing. The other thing is that in an interview situation, we can look for the leadership roles that you have played, right? Even from finally exam, finally a project, right? If it is a group project, I can easily gauge whether you had the leadership role, right? I would simply ask, what did you do, right, for the project? Now, if you can't explain what you did for the project, that itself is a leadership fail. Then have you done the gluing, the driving, the mentoring for the project team? Is another way of evaluating. I gave you some simple answers. There are complicated ways of measuring as well, but looking at the roles that you have played, looking at the way you answer for a leadership kind of a situation, and looking at the way that you have run the projects, we can evaluate your leadership skills. Anything else?
Sir, I'm Nixon. I have a question. My question is like, what should be prioritized among preparing for the dream and start working on the dream without worrying on the potential failures ahead, with the confidence of, the confidence on failure management that we have.
Well, if you are a dream, my simple advice is that don't keep dreaming, just do it. It's as simple as that. Because people have dreams, they don't do anything about it. But wake up in the morning, do something about it. Within tomorrow, go and try and understand whether it is realistic or not, is very, very important. People do keep dreaming and keep theorizing in terms of what they can do, what they cannot do, whether if they had an opportunity, what they would do, etc., etc. But they don't do anything. Doing is very, very important. Getting things done is very, very important. So do something about it today. Do something about it tomorrow. Just do it. And learn from failures is my advice. The next question is that if person have perfect soft skills, proven and have manageable technical skills, how would they start their career? Well, starting the career is always going to be the regular way, right? You will start as an engineer or a QA, etc., etc., right? And in the process, you will start learning. Let me tell you something. You can't be perfect in soft skills when you start. Right? I didn't come to this level of. I didn't have this level of communication when I entered the industry as a junior engineer. As a software engineer 20 years ago. Right? Now every skill has a level of maturity. Right? Let me take communication for example. When you talk about communication, when you start the industry, right? You just give information to other people when you start communication. But as you become a tech lead, you can't just give information, right? You can just give information. You can give you have to give analysis. But when you become senior, such as a senior architect or a VP kind of a person, you can't give just information. You can't give just analysis. You have to give insights. So information, analysis, insights. So like you see, the level of communication keep growing. Same happens with leadership. Same happens with other skills. So what you need to do is that at the very beginning, when you are in the university, right, you need to understand the space and start at the very beginning and start practicing. That's the most important thing when you start the career. I would start from there. Next one is, how do we cope with changing technical environments in the industry, since it requires more theory-based knowledge and more practical knowledge? Well, my advice is that you can't keep change. You can't know everything at the rate that the technology is changing, because it keeps changing. But the trick here is that, right now, for example, when I was in the university, there was no XML. When I was in the university, there was no Google. When I was in the university, there was no web services. And in fact, when I was graduating only, the Java start coming out, right? So the reality of technology is that it keeps going, it keeps changing. So how did I survive in the industry if I didn't know any of these technologies? Well, in my life, in my career, day in and day out, I work with web services, software service-oriented architecture. Now I am dealing with Kubernetes architecture, cloud services, etc., right? So what's important is not to know the technology, but to know the principles, right? So for example, you may not know XML, but you need to understand data packaging, right? Data coding and encoding and decoding. You need to understand distributed computing principles. You need to understand distributed networks. You need to understand scaling, performance, etc. Because no matter what the technology is, those principles matter. You need to understand algorithms, you need to understand design principles, design patterns, etc. So if you do understand that, you can very easily learn technology. So I wouldn't worry somebody coming and telling me that I don't know Java, I don't know Python, I don't know Golang. I wouldn't worry. But if the person tells me I know C really well, oh, I know Java to the extreme, tell me whatever one programming language that you know for extreme. And the next question I usually ask that person is that, how long will it take for you to learn Python in full? Right? If you really know Java inside out, you can learn Python in 2 to 3 weeks, right? And the same goes with Go. Why? Because if you really know Java, you would understand the principles better. And if you understand the principles better, you can learn the other programming language in quick time. The same goes with containers, Kubernetes, and all those things, because they all have concepts, right? Even Spring is about this MVC principle, and its concepts are baked into the framework. People learn Spring, but not the principle on top of which Spring is built, right? That's the problem. So I would say go and learn based on the principles. Then you will survive in the industry. Any ideas that you suggested to follow at a stressful exam schedule? Well, exams are stressful because you didn't do your homework. Did you attend the lectures to start with? Right? Did you read the notes? How many times did you read the notes? Right? Did you do your assignments on your own, for example? Right? These are the questions that I have for you when you say exams are stressful. Remember, if exams are stressful, you're not going to survive in industry, because in industry, every day is stressful, right? There's no single day called no stress in industry. So what you need to do in the university is that you need to learn how to deal with stress. The best way to deal with stress is understand the root cause of the stress. Stress is not the exam, right? Stress is in the way that you have prepared for the exam, or under preparation, or you didn't know the technique, or you didn't know the subject, right? What the hell did you do all this semester that you are stressed at the end of the semester for the exams, right? So the same goes with industry, and the industry problem is very great. In exams, at least you can go to Puppy or ask for your friends, or even look at other people's work and do something about it, right? But when you come to work, you can't do redundant work, right? You have to learn how to work on your own. That's the problem with the industry. If two people are doing the same work in industry, they are going to get rid of one of the people because they can't pay salary for the same work that two people are doing. Two salaries, one work is not going to work, right? So if you are faced with a stressful situation, you need to go and analyze why is this stress coming. And if you can't understand, keep asking why multiple times. Why is exam coming? Because this subject is difficult for me. Why is the subject difficult? Because I don't understand. Why don't you understand? Because of a language problem, or because I didn't go for the lectures, or whatever, or because you didn't do the assignments on your own, or whatever. Then you can answer address the problem successfully. There's no other way out to deal with the stress. You need to understand the root cause and address the root cause, and the root cause will be very specific to you. Okay.
Sir, considering the time limit, let's wrap up the question and answer session. Audience, I hope most of you have got your answers today. Thank you, sir, for your brief explanation and answers. Thank you for agreeing to be the keynote speaker today. Please accept our token of gratitude.
Thank you so much, and have a nice evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Guys, there is an announcement. We will have a group photo at the end of the session. Please be ready for that. And also, please fill the feedback form meanwhile. Now, I invite Abhinaya to give the vote of thanks. Abhinaya, the stage is yours.
Good evening, everyone. On this wonderful evening, I am here on behalf of the Computer Society and Women in Engineering student branch of the University of Jaffna. It is a great honor and privilege to give the vote of thanks on this special occasion. First and foremost, I would like to thank our speaker, Mr. Samisa Abeysinghe. Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable time and effort to deliver such a great session. It was a very informative session to us. I owe a special gratitude to all the committee members who worked hard to ensure that this session becomes a memorable success. Last but not least, I thank all the participants for your cooperation in making this a resounding success. I sincerely thank you all for your kind presence in this session.